And welcome back to another CBB Talk with your boy, Will Dickinson. And the Final Four is set. We have 4 teams left. Let's recap this Elite Eight. And then this week we're going to be bringing probably 2 more episodes before the Final Four. One, I think I'm going to be releasing my All-American team, so I'm going to do that. And then obviously we're going to have an award show later in the year. Once the national championship is over, so probably next week we'll be having an awards show. From a week from now is the national championship. And then we're gonna be doing my first, second, and third team All Americans. And then we're gonna be doing obviously a Final Four preview show, which should be super fun to look forward to. And we have 4 teams left that I don't think anyone really could have predicted. I don't know how many brackets had these 4 teams in it, but if you did, you're a genius because it was super hard to kind of predict these teams. I mean, obviously, UConn, Purdue weren't too hard, but NC State and Alabama are. And we had some great stories, some great Elite Eight games. So let's talk about it. We're just going to go region by region. And first, we can talk about the dominance of UConn because it's remarkable what they're doing. I said this. I didn't make an episode, but after this game, I kind of put some on my Snapchat, and I've been tweeting out things like, you can go follow my Twitter. I think it's just bball will 22, 21 maybe. I can't remember, but something like that. Go follow my Twitter because I just post a lot of college basketball stuff on there. And what I said was, I love this UConn team, and I think they're a juggernaut. This is probably one of the best 3 college basketball teams I've ever witnessed. 2018 Villanova, 2021 Baylor, and this team. I think they're 3 of the best. Solely because what they do during the tournament is dominating teams. If you're a betting man, I'm just betting UConn. I've bet now UConn in these last 3 games they've played, and they've covered in all of them. I bet them against Northwestern, they covered. I bet them against San Diego State, they covered. Bet them against Illinois, they covered. It's crazy. This game they haven't been shooting the ball well really from 3 all tournament, which is one of the best things about this team is they are not relying on the 3 ball. Obviously, Illinois came with a bad strategy to attack Klingon, and Klingon was dominant in this game. He was the sole reason UConn won this game. Obviously, he had most of the points in the first half. Cam Spencer kind of came alive at the end of that first half. But in the second half, obviously, when you go on a 30-0 run in an Elite Eight game against a team that's won going in this game like 9 in a row, who won the Big Ten, it's remarkable what they do. Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer. I mean, Klingon was such a dominant force defensively. And then Stefan Castle is one of my favorite players on this team. I tweeted out that I love what Stefan Castle did. A lot of this game, he had the job of guarding Terrence Shannon. And as a freshman, you're guarding someone that's like 4 years older than you, and you held your own. You gave Terrence Shannon only have 8 points and 2 field goals. And his jumper is not there, and if it can come around, I think Stefan Castle's going to be a great NBA player. He's going to be a lottery pick, but he's also contributed to winning, which I love from a freshman. This UConn team, what Dan Hurley's done is amazing. Again, no team's made it to the Final Four since 2007 Florida. And what he must have, I don't know what he told this team at halftime, but it's crazy. I mean, he's just done an amazing job. He's probably the best coach in college basketball. He's never satisfied. Obviously, that famous quote from when they lost a couple years back to Villanova, he said, "You better get us now because it's coming." They won it last year. Even they were dominant in the non-con. They kind of struggled in the Big East play. And then they ran through the tournament. They're doing it again, running through this tournament. They haven't lost. They've lost 1 game since the flip of the calendar since 2024 started. And they're not a team that's. It's honestly crazy because obviously Klingon is their go-to guy, but they don't run their offense through Klingon. It's so much off-ball movement. Get Cam Spencer open shots, Tristan Newton going to the basket, and you have guys like Castle who can get a bucket. Caravan can shoot the 3. Diarra comes off the bench and gives good minutes. And this team is completely different when Klingon's on and Samson Johnson's on. When Klingon's on, they do kind of run through the big. And when Samson Johnson's on, it's more of a pick and roll. They throw lobs up to him. And obviously their defense in this tournament has been amazing. They haven't allowed over 50 points, or they haven't allowed 60 points yet this tournament. So their defense has been great, along with their offense. And if they start shooting the ball well in these final 2 games, I think UConn's going to win the national championship. I picked them in my bracket because this team is different. I've been saying that. And um, they're going to play a tough Alabama team and probably a tough Purdue team, and I could see UConn losing. Um, or I can envision Purdue winning the national championship or something like that. But it's hard for me to believe that UConn's losing the game. They're on such a tear. I've been calling them a juggernaut for a while now. And they've been my number one team. I can't remember. Let's see when's the last time UConn wasn't number one in my rankings. Because I do try to come up with a ranking. I used to see, like, let's see. I think so the last time UConn got okay, so actually UConn was not number one. At the end of the regular season, UConn was my number one team, but there was Houston was my number one team for a lot of the last 3 weeks of the regular season before the end. Yeah, so obviously UConn's always been at the top of the polls, and I do want to go look at um my preseason poll. I had UConn ranked 8th in the preseason, and I think that's valid. Maybe that was a little lower than most, but you got to think they lost Adama Sanogo. They lost Jordan Hawkins, who was amazing, and then they lost Andre Jackson. So they lost three of their three pretty much best players. But what they've done is crazy. They rebuilt this team. They brought in Cam Spencer, freshman Stephon Castle, and then they really just had guys from their system get better, like Tristan Newton, like Klingon, like Caravan. It's great what Dan Hurley's done, and I have an 8th in the AP poll, preseason poll, and now they're probably going to win it all. So let's move down. We talked a lot about UConn. Obviously, UConn is probably going to win it all. And be real. But let's talk about the West region. Alabama takes down Clemson 89-82. A really good game here. This was, I wouldn't say this is the game of the Elite Eight. This is probably the second best game in the Elite Eight, but this was very entertaining one. Back and forth. Clemson got off to a really good start in this one. But Bama really fought back, went on a big run to end the first half. And the thing about Alabama is you know how they're going to play. They're going to run. They're going to get up threes. And if they start getting hot, it's hard to beat them. And pretty much Alabama can beat anyone in the country. I don't know if they can beat UConn, but they shoot a lot of threes, so they have the potential to beat anyone. They got almost 40 threes up in this game. And in that second half, Mark Sears was amazing. I've been claiming for Mark Sears. I've been saying he's one of the best players in the country now for a while. When I did my best 16 players in the Sweet 16, I had Mark Sears over RJ Davis. Now I think I did. Let's see. I did my top 10 players in the Elite Eight. I think I had Mark Sears sitting in the 4 slot. I'm gonna go check right now. I think I have him in the 4 slot, but I'll go check right now. Where did I have Mark Sears ranked? Let's see. Where did I have him ranked? I had Mark Sears 4th, and he proved me right. 23 in this one on 7 threes. He really struggled in that first half, but he got going. Obviously, you have a game like Jaron Stevenson coming off the bench. I think he had 18 in this one. It was very, very impressive. I like to now brag about this. I played Jaron Stevenson about, what is it, 2 years ago? Yeah, about 2 years ago. He is in my grade. He reclassed up, so I played against him. Obviously, he was super good then. But it's crazy to see how much he's developed. And he airballed a 3 early. He didn't lose his confidence. Hit a couple threes, especially in that second half, big time minutes there. Alabama, man, is in the Final Four, and it's crazy to think about. This team was the number one team in the nation last year. The team that was the number one overall seed, had Brandon Miller, and this team lost practically the whole roster from last year, and they had to rebuild it. They kept Mark Sears, Rylan Griffin, but they lost almost everyone else. And what Natos has been able to do is kind of rebuild the roster. He realized Mark Sears is a special player, and they brought in players that can really shoot the three, are athletic, and can run the court. And we saw Nick Pringle in this game really be a dominant force inside and got Clemson in the foul trouble, which is huge. PJ Hall ended up fouling out on this one. And yeah, Rylan Griffin is a guy who every time he shoots it, I just think it's going in. He has such a pretty shot, has all the confidence in the world, and can play really good perimeter defense there. And Alabama has turned up their defense. They allowed 96 to Charleston, but a lot of those were in garbage time, and then only 60 to Grand Canyon. I mean, they allowed 80 in the last 2 games, but look, if you're allowing 80 points in your Alabama, you're happy because you're going to be able to score up to 90. They've scored 89. They scored 100 in the first game. Alabama's in the Final Four. What Natos has done, I mean, going from Buffalo, it's a little Buffalo reunion with him and Hurley, going from the head coach of Buffalo, getting the job at Alabama, and really turning this program around. One Final Four, two Sweet 16s besides that, and this is year 5 for him. It's a great turnaround of a program here, and we saw, Clemson had a great year. Brad Burnell got off the hot seat. He brought Clemson to the Elite Eight for the first time since I can't remember, a long, long time. And Clemson had a great run here. You wanted a better game from Chase Hunter. He couldn't really give you a great game there. PJ Hall getting into foul trouble definitely hurt. I mean, Gerard had a pretty solid game, but a great year for Clemson in the ACC here. But yeah, we got a Bama UConn Final Four match. The number 1 seed from this year versus number 1 seed from last year. This Alabama team, again, very, very good team. And they've shown they can beat anyone in the country here, and they've lost a lot of games, so they finally clicked it together. And I doubted that Alabama with that defense could win 4 in a row, and they have. And now they're 2 games away from winning it all, but they're gonna have to go through the best team in the country to do it. Let's move on to the South region, because I didn't talk about the Sweet 16 games, but we ended up getting a North Carolina matchup, which is huge in my neck of the woods as a guy who lives in Raleigh. Duke versus NC State. Man, I've been doubting NC State, and I will say, the last 3, I bet NC State yesterday the cover. I think it was 7, 7.5, 6.5. It was I think it was 7 for me, and I bet NC State against Marquette. I think that was 8.5, and I was like, look, they're gonna cover. I don't know if they're gonna win. And these last 2 games, NC State just play with fire. They're one of the most fun teams to watch because of DJ Burns. He's an absolute star. He's not just a local star like they said. He's a world star, and obviously when you're from Raleigh, you're gonna hear a lot about NC State. And the first time since 1983, NC State is in the Final Four. A similar run to the Cardiac Pack, Jim Valvano's squad, and the women's team. Shout out to the women's team making the Final Four. So you have both men's and women's teams in the Final Four. That is just crazy. Really good women's ball tonight. I would recommend watching. If you don't watch women's college basketball, watch it now because you're going to have Caitlin Clark versus LSU, and then you're going to have Juju Watkins versus Paige Beckers. Those are some of probably the 3 biggest stars in the game going at each other. But back to NC State. This game, Duke never really had it. Duke got off to a solid start, but Duke could not score. Jared was did Jared have half the team's points? How much did Jared have in this game? Jared had half the team's points, yeah. Flip was not good. I didn't like their defensive strategy on Burns. They kind of got him into foul trouble in that first half, which is huge. And we saw NC State really struggle without him on the court. But they were letting Burns go one-on-one there. You got to double him and make other people make shots. You saw Michael O'Connell hit 1 big 3, but he's not a consistent shooter. Obviously, DJ Horn was really good in this one as well. But Diarra, you can double off Diarra. You can double off O'Connell. And they really weren't. And it saw what happened. DJ Burns had 28 in this one, was a dominant player. And a really good year for John Shire and Duke. Look, year 2, you make an Elite Eight. You have the number 1 class in the country next year with Cooper Flagg coming in. So, yeah, but you look at Duke. They got Vermont, I mean, obviously in the first round. Then they get a JMU team who they destroyed. Then you get a Houston team without Jamal Shead, and it sucks. I never got to talk about this, but yeah, it sucks. Jamal Shead got hurt in that game. I think Houston would have easily won that game. They lost by 3 without Jamal Shead. I think they win that game, and maybe they beat NC State, and they're in the Final Four. And then you lose to an 11 seed NC State. But this NC State team is no regular 11 seed. They're the second hottest team in the country behind UConn. I think they're now on a 9-game win streak here. What Kevin Keats has done was from going to the hot seat to now being in the Final Four. I mean, he's got the job now for 5+ more years. It's a great run, but they're not satisfied, and I know NC State fans aren't. Obviously, they're relishing in this moment. They got the spotlight on them. DJ Burns is a real star. DJ Horn has been really good too. And then you've had these other players just come alive, where Diarra's had some good games. Casey Morcell had a good game against against Marquette. O'Connell hit that big shot against Virginia. They won't even be here without that. And yeah, I mean, Burns has been the man. Middlebrooks had a huge first-round game against Texas Tech. It's really good to see this NC State team come alive in the 919 area. It's not a lot in North Carolina. There's not a lot of Duke fans. It's all NC State and UNC fans, and NC State's usually the butt of the joke because they're never that good. But they're getting their moment of shine here. And they're in the Final Four. It's one of the greatest runs I've ever seen. Um, this team is very much like the 2021 UCLA team, which they got hot at the right time. They have a star like Johnny Juzang, but this one's in a big form in DJ Burns. And they had really good surrounding pieces like Jaime Jaquez and DJ Horn for NC State. So, yeah, this team's got hot. And another 11 seed, we've seen them, UCLA, Loyola, VCU did it. Yeah, it's a remarkable run. And we get to see them. We'll see if they can take down the Boilermakers. But we're gonna see a very fun matchup between Burns and Edey. But shout out to Kevin Keats, shout out to the Wolfpack, and definitely shout out to DJ Burns because you're in the Final Four, man. It's the biggest spotlight in all of college basketball. And shout out to DJ Burns, man, real star. He'll get some recognition on my award show some way, somehow. And then the final region, I guess this wasn't the final game, but the final region we're gonna talk about is the Midwest. Purdue, Tennessee. We got a 1-2 there. And man, this is probably the best game. It sucks because I'm gonna be honest. I don't like Purdue. I really dislike watching them play. I've been kind of campaigning against Purdue all year, and I've given them flowers when it's necessary. I've had them number one in the poll before. I told them that they're one of the best teams in the country. Zach East probably the best player in the country, but I don't like watching them play. I don't root for them at all. I root against them every game they play. And this one, man, we saw the two best players in college basketball go at each other. I was campaigning for TSJ, Terrence Shannon, to be better than Connect over the last month or so, which he has been. But obviously, we saw their Elite Eight, both teams playing the Elite Eight, and we saw Connect absolutely go off in this one. But I gotta give my flowers to Purdue, man. I'm rooting against them. I don't want Purdue to win the national championship. That would probably be the worst case scenario for me as a guy who I just don't enjoy watching them play. I mean, the whole offense is give the ball to Edey. They get fucking they get a lot. I mean, they get a lot of fouls. Edey shot the most free throws since Pete Maravich did over 50 years ago. The free throw, it's a lot of free throws, man. I mean, they don't foul and they get all the calls. So it's not a fun basketball version to watch here. Edey had 40. I mean, Edey had his best game of his career at 40. Connect puts up 37, man. It was really a 1-versus-1 in two different ways. Look, Tennessee needed someone else to step up. Ziegler wasn't great. Gainey coming and hit some threes was huge, but Vescovy gave him nothing. James had a good first half, nothing in that second half, and your whole bigs had the foul trouble, which sucked. So pretty much it was Connect versus Edey. Connect, I felt like Connect had a very good game, but he missed some easier mid-range shots. I felt like if he makes Tennessee wins this game, but Purdue, I mean, they're a tough team to stop. I think we're destined for Purdue, UConn, national championship. And I love that Kling and Edey matchup, but we're gonna get a fun one with Burns and Edey. I'm expecting DR to guard him though. But if I'm playing against Purdue, I'm making someone else beat you. You have to let Lance Jones hit some threes, or when Trey Kaufman-Renn's in the game, double Edey and don't guard Trey Kaufman-Renn. What's the point of guarding Trey? I didn't understand why Tennessee wasn't doubling as much. Make someone else beat you. They let Edey beat them. But yeah, Purdue, I mean, we saw Virginia do it. They lose to the 16 and they go to the Final Four. They're going to get another chance. They're going to get a chance to win it all. A great redemption story. Matt Painter's an amazing coach. This Purdue team is way better, man. Obviously, the growth of Brain Smith, Fletcher Lawyer from last year is huge. And then bringing in a guy like Lance Jones makes his team so much better. And we have a fun Final Four. UConn, Alabama, Purdue, NC State. We see we see our Cinderella story like NC State. We got two of the best teams in the nation and an Alabama team who can go off any other night. A team kind of like the Miami team from last year. Very similar play styles here, but they both had to go against UConn in the Final Four. So we'll see. I'm expecting a Purdue UConn natty. But you never know. It's March Madness. Expect the unexpected. A great March, and we're into April. But we still have 3 more college basketball games left, man. So cherish them because it's the best sport in my opinion. But we're gonna have more. We're gonna have NBA playoffs. We're gonna have the Masters. So we're gonna have a lot of good stuff. But college basketball is the bread and butter of what I love, and it's sad that it's coming to an end. But the Final Four is always super fun. So hopefully we get some good games. I'll come back with a Final Four preview maybe on Thursday, and my All American teams maybe on Wednesday. We'll see. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.